Welcome back to the channel, my friends. Warhammer Man Studios. I'm Warhammer Man, and today we're trying to get The End in the Death Volume 3. This video is sponsored by CMO Games. More on that later. Alright, so Games Workshop has taken some measures and re-implemented the queue system with some changes to it. And now they are giving us one more shot at The End in the Death Volume 3 after canceling a bunch of scalper orders. So with any luck, we'll get a decent place in the queue, and I'll actually be able to get a copy. So far, the changes we've seen them make this past Saturday look to be good. They fixed all the issues that I had complained about in the past. So with any luck, at least now you'll have an equal opportunity to get one, as opposed to being at a severe disadvantage if you follow the rules and don't do any of the crazy stuff to cheat the system. So still not trying to get too overly optimistic, as I have had zero luck in the past. Like 6 or 7 times I've tried to get one of these hard to obtain limited edition signed copies. The only times recently when I've had any luck were with the substantially less popular books, which for the most part were still available hours after the queue system went live. But like I said, at least now it should be like a full-on lottery whether or not you get an opportunity to buy it, rather than just who can break the system the best, the fastest, the most efficiently. So if you do enjoy today's video and coming along for the ride, make sure to give me a like and subscribe, as it really helps out the channel. Also, let me know if you had any luck with the queue today, if you were in line for this, and if you were able to get a copy of The End in the Death Volume 3. Always appreciate to hear back from you guys in the comments. Alright, so we have the official queue bar in place. Should be just generating our random place in line as we speak, and we should have a time countdown shortly. Okay, so we did get a place in line. Unfortunately, it does say more than an hour, so the probability of us actually getting a copy of this is pretty much zero, as we don't know exactly how many copies Games Workshop canceled and recalled. But realistically, with 2,500 copies worldwide, even if they pulled back 500 of them, the probability that we're over an hour on the wait and still get one of those 500 theoretical copies is probably zero. Okay, so it does look like there's some kind of issue with the queue. It says the queue is paused, so I'm assuming something went wrong. Probably too much traffic on the website, as this is the first time Games Workshop has implemented all of the regions at the same time. So rather than having just Europe or just the UK or Australia or the US in queue, they have the entire world in a single queue at the same time. So probably going to find out the true limits of the queue system today. So as always, want to be optimistic and give Games Workshop credit for at least attempting to fix the queue system, but it does appear that something has gone wrong. It was initially quoting us over an hour, and now it's said that the queue system is paused for the last few minutes. So it does appear that something has gone wrong behind the scenes, which there's really no excuse for this, because there are other companies that are substantially bigger, like sneaker companies and stuff like that, that do offerings where they have substantially more demand, substantially more people trying to access their website or get into a queue system to buy a limited product. So for Games Workshop to be a multi-billion-dollar company, hire an outside company to run their queue system, and still be plagued with issues, not only with their actual web store, but with the queue itself, it's just really no excuse at this point in time. I mean, they're obviously not spending money in the right places to ensure that the customer has a positive experience. And while in the short term, they've been able to get away with this, and by the short term, I mean for the last couple of years, you can definitely sense a just ongoing frustration within the community, lots and lots of negativity, and just overall disdain for Games Workshop as a company and their practices. And I've got to say that, like I said, I try to be optimistic, and I know that they're attempting to make changes. But if you just look at what's actually taking place, the amount of people that are quitting the hobby, that are swearing off Games Workshop, the amount of employees that are leaving and publicly voicing their concerns or their issues with the company, in particular just on YouTube alone, but also creating their own websites and hobby adjacent content creators, it's very clear that Games Workshop needs to make some legitimate changes. And while overall the stock price has been pretty good over the last few years, it's basically went sideways for the most recent 3-year period, which obviously there's a lot going on. There was a big bubble that was blown just overall in the world, in stock markets in general. So it's not particularly crazy how their stock price has been behaving. And realistically, most valuations are done based on either multiple or actual earnings, and essentially a combination of those two. We're seeing reflected with companies like Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast and D&D, recent issues, that people are pulling back from their purchases for some of these other companies and products. And while Games Workshop is definitely number one in the space, it's not crazy to think that if they don't course correct at some point in time, that eventually they're going to see this negatively reflected in their sales, in their profits, in their earnings, and in their stock price. And because they are a publicly traded company, eventually their business practices will matter. So while I've been praising them recently for just attempting to actually like correct some of these situations, finally attempting to address the broken queue system, and also like the super limited edition items being scalped and purchased in mass quantity by like single people, the fact of the matter is, when it comes to business, it's not like the whole like, oh, well, it's the thought that counts type scenario. People eventually are going to want to see results. Now a quick message from today's sponsor. CMO Games has been selling Games Workshop products online for over 20 years. They carry the full line of Games Workshop products, including Warhammer 40,000, Age of Sigmar, Necromunda, Blood Bowl, paint tools, and more. Almost all Games Workshop products are priced at 15% off MSRP. CMO Games takes pre-orders for most Games Workshop products released at their earliest date possible. 12:01 a.m. on Saturday, they go live. Most of these pre-order products are also priced at 15% off MSRP. CMO Games offer free shipping in the US 48 with an order of $50 or more. Their customer service is top-notch and they ship most orders within 24 hours. Visit CMOgames.com using the affiliate link in the description and let them know that you heard about CMO Games from Warhammer Man. Now back to the video. So we'll see how today plays out. I was trying to be optimistic, but it does appear that it's just going to be another one of these scenarios. And now here we've been sitting in the queue now for like over 30 minutes. The system is clearly broken. There's definitely issues behind the scenes. And most people are just not going to wait around for hours at a time, waiting and hoping to get a hold of a product. Eventually, they're just going to get frustrated and just choose not to buy the product. And I don't just mean like this single limited edition book. I mean, just in general, finally, people are going to take their money and they're going to spend it somewhere else. And I think that because of my particular connection to the IP and over 30 years in like the hobby, in the game, and almost exclusive interest in like Games Workshop, lore, products, etc., I'm more reluctant to turn and go somewhere else than most people are. I'm definitely starting to sense an increased frustration in the community and in like the overall like hobby and gaming space in general. And with the rise of things like 3D printing, black markets in the sense of like recasting, or websites that like provide their rules for free, it's very evident that over the last couple years, and even more so as of late, that people are willing to source alternative methods. And you've got to think that it's just a matter of time before 3D printing either explodes onto the scene, or more realistically, in my opinion, one of these other like miniature or game companies really starts to pick up some steam and starts like stealing a legitimate percentage of Games Workshop's business, which right now they're a massive hobby titan when it comes to like tabletop wargaming. But it's not crazy to think that someone else, perhaps even another big company, or maybe one of the smaller companies that's been slowly growing over the last few years, could easily start to gain momentum and become a real threat to the sustainability of Games Workshop's business model. So short term, I don't think it's going to be like doom and gloom or the end of Games Workshop or anything like that. And while we have seen them take some like efforts to try to please the community, try to correct some of the issues with like the black market stuff or scalpers taking advantage of their broken systems, the fact of the matter is we've seen it in the past. Eventually people are going to vote with their hobby dollars. And I think it's just a matter of time before people go somewhere else. So let me know if you sense some of this frustration in your like local gaming communities, or if you felt some of it yourself. Always like to hear back from you guys in the comments, but I'm going to go ahead and cut off the video here as the queue system has been paused for quite some time. We've been in line for almost an hour at this point in time, and doesn't seem like a very high probability that we're going to be getting a hold of one of these. Special thanks to CMO Games for sponsoring the video. Check out the link in the description to save 15% on Games Workshop products. Tell them Warhammer Man sent you. That's it for today. Warhammer Man Studios, I'm Warhammer Man, and I tried to be optimistic, but the fact of the matter is this system is still broken. And I'm out of here.